Today we're going to look at installing a Wamp server onto a Windows XP virtual machine. Alright, first step is to check our network settings. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to configure the network card to make sure that it's on the same subnet as the rest of the network. So I'm just going to go to the command prompt, type in CMD, or actually into the run command, CMD, to pull up the command prompt, and I'm going to type in ipconfig. Like that, there we go. Alright, from here we can get our actual network settings, and the important part is our IP address of our machine and the default gateway. In my case, it's the 192.168 network. The default gateway is important because that's the actual address of the router. So now we're going to actually set up a static IP address. Oh, first we're going to check to make sure that we're on a bridge network on our virtual machine, which we are. So we just check to make sure that that's to go. And then we're going to set up I don't know what we're going to set up now. Okay, so now we're going to go in and check out the network connections. Double click on network connections, double click on your network card or your network connection. Select properties, double click on that. Okay, so there's a bit of a lag here because of the recording from the virtual machine running on this machine. Any second now, there we go. Okay, so get that out of the way. Select TCP on the IP4 network, and we're going to give it a static address. The reason we're going to do that is we don't want to keep changing the address because from my router and from most home routers, every hour it'll update the address, so the address can drop out and then you won't be able to connect to your server. So I've just put in the IP address of 192.168.0.200, which will be the address of my server. I've put in the default gateway. Close that. Should have ticked that box. Too late, she cried. Okay, close that. Close that. Right. I'm just going to ping, see if we can ping my main box, which is 192.168.0. Well, first we'll ping the default gateway, which is the router. We can see there that we've got 4 good responses. So that's good. And we're just going to put an exception into the firewall, which is file and printer sharing, which will allow me to ping my main box, which is a Windows 7 box. Sometimes they won't communicate if the file and printer sharing is not enabled. Now we can see that we've got 4 good connections. So its time to live is 128, so that's fairly good. Okay, step 2. Now we're going to rename the web server. So when we installed the server into the virtual machine, Microsoft, in its wisdom, has decided that it will just get some weird name, which is built from my name. So it'll be Rob, and it'll be a big string of numbers and letters after it, which is not very user-friendly. So we're just going to go in here and change it. So there's the address. I'm just going to change this to XP server. While I'm here, I'm just going to put it onto my same work group as the rest of my machines here, which is the freestyle network. Click OK, and this will force a restart. So I should get a box up saying welcome to the freestyle network in a second. There we go, or the freestyle work group. And then it'll tell us that we have to restart. Click OK, click OK, and bang, she'll restart. Alright, next step. Step 3, install the Wamp server. So I'm going to assume that you guys have already downloaded this from the Wamp page. I've given you the address in the tutorial documentation, and I've got that actually sitting on my desktop of my main machine. So I'm just going to go in through my shared folder, and this is now into the desktop of my main machine. I'm just going to drag it to the desktop of my virtual, and then I'm just going to double click on this executable file and pretty much follow the prompts. So yes, next, yeah, I accept the terms, yes, install into the default location. I'm going to select to put a desktop icon, because I'm going to use that in a little while to drop it into the startup folder, so that this will start automatically when the machine starts up. Okay, let it do its thing. Yeah, I'm not going to install any fancy browsers onto this virtual machine. This is going to be a pretty bare bones box, so we'll just accept Internet Explorer. Yeah, the address is going to be localhost. And do we want to launch it? Absolutely. Now we've got a security alert. It's asking us if we want to open up a port on the firewall. Yes, we're going to accept that. Now we'll get rid of this file, just drop it into the recycling bin. And you'll see up in the top left hand corner there that we've got our Wamp Server shortcut. I'm just going to drag that onto all programs, down to the startup folder. It's a little bit finicky on these small machines. And then drop it into the startup folder. Just make sure that it got there. So now whenever the machine starts, it'll automatically start up the services for the Wamp server. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a shortcut to the www folder, and as you can see on the screen there, you just right click and drag that, and then select create shortcut here. Now we've got a fair handy little shortcut straight to our www folder. It'll be easy for us to drag and drop files into there when we're creating websites. Alright, now we're going to go in and we're going to actually configure the Apache server. So we select the bin folder and the Apache folder, Apache 22.6, the config or conf folder, and our config file. Alright, you can't read it, so we're just going to select Notepad, so you can edit this in Notepad, and you get this long list, most of which are just comments. Anything that's got that hash symbol, that octothorpe symbol in the beginning, is actually a comment. So if you just strip all that out, there'll be actually very few lines of text in there. And what we're actually looking for is the lines. We're going to actually add a line of code here that will allow machines on the 192.168 network to connect. Now everything's locked down. That's that part you can see there. It's just saying that it's configured to lock everything out. And this is the line we want, where it says allow from 127.0.0.1, which is effectively us. That's the actual machine itself. That's its loopback address. We're just going to create a line here that says allow from 192.168. Now you can carry on and add the extra 2 octets if you wanted, but this will just allow everything on the 192.168 network to connect to that, which is handy if you want other people to be able to connect to in your network. Just check it with Internet Explorer on the local machine, and the way you do that is you just type in localhost into your URL bar. Whoops, it's got into the Bing search bar. Okay, localhost. Typing. Okay, and there we go, there's our Wamp server. It's working. So it's showing us all of the features that are installed with PHP. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to stop all the services, because it won't refresh that Apache file until all the services stopped and then restarted. So we're just going to restart them. And what I'll do is I'll drag, first I'm going to ping from my main machine. Sometimes the connection drops out. So this is, I'm just dragging in this command prompt from my main box, my big daddy box, and I'm just going to ping the actual virtual machine. Just make sure we've got connection, which we have. And now if I drag a browser in off my main machine, which I'm just doing now, and if I type in XP server into that address, and press enter, there we go. We've now connected to the virtual machine from another machine. So effectively now you would be able to minimize the virtual machine, just let it sitting there in your taskbar, and you'll be able to manipulate that using your text editor of choice. We'll just quickly check to make sure that this is working, so I'm just going to create a folder in here. New folder, I'm just going to call it new project, and in there I'm just going to create a text file. So new text file, and that's .txt. I'm just turning on the folder options because by default it hides the extensions of the file, so you can't tell whether it's a TXT or a HTML or a PHP file. So I like to be able to see the actual extensions, and I just type in a very simple little PHP script into here, which is just a variant on the old famous hello world. In my case it's going to be hi there. So hi there. Let's close the PHP tag and save that. So close that up. Now I'm just going to rename that to PHP. I'm just going to call it index.php, which by default, whenever a browser goes into a directory and discovers a file called index, it will instantly load it up. So here we go, just drag my browser back. This is from my main machine, remember. I'm just going to type in XP server. There's our Wamp server. You can see there's a folder there now called new project. I'll click on that, and there we go. Hi there. So that's actually running, passing PHP. So you could fill that up with any PHP code you like and be able to check that out in your browser from your main machine, and it effectively will be just replicating exactly as it would be on the web. Alright, I'll catch you next time.